I'm holding a bag of white powder that looks like flour, and I just paid about $15 for it. But this isn't flour. This is the fossilized skeletons of trillions of microscopic sea creatures that died millions of years ago, ground into a fine dust. And to a tick crawling across your lawn, it is the most lethal thing on Earth. It kills ticks on contact. It kills them by a method they physically cannot become immune to, no matter how many generations you put it up against. And it does it with no chemicals, no poison, nothing you'd be afraid to have around your kids and your dog once it's down. People have been using this powder to kill bugs for over 100 years. The deposits it comes from are millions of years old, and a single cheap bag of it will treat your whole yard. And the company that sends a man out to spray your lawn with chemicals every single month for a few $100s a season, they are not going to be the ones to tell you about a $15 bag of dirt that does the job and never needs them again. Today I'm going to show you exactly what this powder is, why it works, and the right way and the wrong way to use it, because there's a safety side to this one you absolutely need to hear. Real quick before we get into it, I keep the full plan for all of this in one place. Every method I've shown you, all in one spot over at garytips.com. So head there and grab it. Link's right in the description. All right, let's get into it. After the wasp and the ant videos, where we beat the pests without the poison and without the monthly bill, a whole lot of you asked me the same thing. Gary, what about ticks? They're the one that actually scares me. And you're right to be scared of those, more than any other bug we've talked about, and I'll tell you why in a second. But the good news is that the answer is the same kind of cheap, old, honest fix as all the others, with a few things you have to get right. Here's the number that should genuinely worry you. Ticks aren't just a nuisance like a wasp at a picnic. Ticks carry disease, Lyme disease, and a whole growing list of others, and the numbers have been climbing for years. The range where these things live keeps expanding, the seasons they're active keep getting longer, and more people are getting bitten and getting sick than ever before. This is the one pest on this channel that can genuinely hurt your health, or your kids, or your dogs, months after a bite you might not have even noticed. So people do the natural thing. They call a service, and a guy comes and sprays the whole yard with a chemical acaricide every few weeks, all season, for a few $100s a year. And that spray does kill ticks, but it also drifts onto your vegetable garden, soaks into the ground where your kids play barefoot, and kills every other insect it touches, including the bees and the beneficial bugs your yard actually needs. You're laying down repeated chemical treatments around your family forever on a subscription. And the whole time there's a bag of inert powder at the farm store that kills ticks dead and isn't a poison at all. So here's what it is, and the science is genuinely beautiful. The powder is called diatomaceous earth, and I'll just call it DE because nobody can say it twice. It's made of diatoms, which were microscopic single-celled algae that lived in the oceans and lakes, encased in tiny, intricate shells made of silica, basically glass. They lived and died by the trillions over millions of years, and their tiny glass shells drifted down and piled up into thick deposits, which we now mine and crush into a soft white powder. To your fingers it feels like talc, like nothing at all. But that's because you're enormous. Zoom down to the scale of a tick, and that soft powder is a field of broken glass, billions of microscopically sharp, jagged shards. And here's the genius of how it kills. A tick, like all insects and arachnids, is sealed inside a hard outer shell, and that shell is coated in a thin, waxy, oily layer that holds its body moisture in. That waxy coat is the only thing keeping the bug from drying out and dying. When that tick crawls through the DE, those microscopic glass shards scratch and scrape right through that waxy coat, and the powder, which is incredibly absorbent, soaks up the wax and the oils and the moisture like a sponge. And that's it. The tick's waterproofing is destroyed, and it dries out and dies. It dehydrates to death. There's no poison involved at all. It's a purely physical, mechanical kill. And that is the part that makes this powder special. The part the chemical companies genuinely cannot compete with. Because it kills mechanically instead of chemically, a tick cannot ever become resistant to it. You know how bugs evolve resistance to pesticides, so the sprays have to keep getting stronger and changing? You cannot evolve resistance to being scratched open and dried out. There's no genetic trick for not being made of broken glass. So this powder works exactly as well today as it did 100 years ago, and it'll work exactly as well 100 years from now on every generation of tick, forever. It does not wear out, and it does not stop working. Try selling a product like that on a monthly subscription. You can't. And that, more than any conspiracy, is the real reason you've never heard a pest control salesman mention it. Now, to put that powder in exactly the right place, you have to understand how a tick actually hunts you, and almost everything most people believe about this is wrong. Ticks do not jump, they do not fly, and they do not drop out of trees onto your head, no matter how many times you've heard that. That's a myth. What a tick actually does is something called questing. It crawls up to the very tip of a blade of grass, or the edge of a leaf, right at about ankle or knee height, and it just waits there, sometimes for days, with its front legs stretched out like a tiny hitchhiker. And it's not waiting blindly. It can sense the carbon dioxide you breathe out, your body heat, your shadow, the vibration of your footsteps. So when you or your kid or your dog brushes past that blade of grass, the tick grabs on and climbs aboard and goes looking for a place to bite. That's the whole game. They are sit-and-wait ambush hunters, perched at the edges, at leg height, waiting for something warm to walk by. And once you understand that, the entire strategy clicks into place. They can't quest out in the open, short, sunny lawn because they dry out and die in that exposed grass within hours. The same weakness the powder exploits. So they're forced into the tall grass, the leaf litter, the shrubby, shaded edges, the transition line between your mowed lawn and the wild stuff. That edge is where every tick in your yard is lined up, questing, waiting, which is precisely why you don't waste your powder dusting the whole lawn. You put it right on that ambush line, where they have no choice but to be. Now let me show you how to actually use it, because there's a right way and a few wrong ways, and one of the wrong ways can hurt you. So stay with me through this part especially. First, and this is the single most important thing I'll say in this whole video, so listen. You must buy food-grade diatomaceous earth. Food grade. There is another kind sold for swimming pool filters called pool grade or filter grade, and that stuff has been heat treated in a way that changes the silica into a form that is genuinely dangerous to breathe and can cause serious lung disease over time. Do not ever buy pool grade DE to use around your home. You want the bag that says food grade every time, no exceptions. Write that down. Food grade. With that settled, here's how you apply it. DE only works on crawling pests, and it only works when it's dry, and a tick has to actually crawl through it. So the trick is to put it exactly where the ticks travel, not just scattered randomly across your whole lawn. Remember, they live along the shady, moist edges, so you target those. The line where your lawn meets the woods or tall grass, which is the tick superhighway. The leaf litter and brush along your fences and property edges, around the woodpile, the stone walls, the shady, damp corners, and the paths your dog runs and where your pets bed down. You put down a light, even dusting, not a thick pile, a thin layer they have to walk across, right in those tick zones. A little hand duster or even a flour sifter works great for getting an even coat. Hit the edges and the shade and the litter, and you've treated where 90% of the ticks actually are, with a fraction of the powder. Now, 2 honest limits you have to work with. 1. The second it gets wet, rain, heavy dew, sprinklers, DE stops working because wet powder can't scratch and can't absorb. So, after a good rain, you go back out and reapply once things dry off. That's the trade for using something with no poison in it. It's not spray once and forget. It's a cheap powder you refresh. And 2. This works best as part of making your whole yard a place ticks don't want to be. So you also keep your grass mowed short. You clear out the leaf litter and the brush where they hide. And here's a great one the tick experts actually recommend. You lay down a strip of wood chips or gravel about 3 feet wide between your lawn and any woods or tall grass. Ticks won't cross that dry barrier easily, and a line of DE right along it is a killing zone. Powder in the right places, plus a yard that's tidy and dry and sunny where your family actually is. That combination is what really clears them out. And here's a bonus, because that same bag does a lot more than ticks. Diatomaceous earth kills any crawling, hard-shelled pest the exact same way. Fleas in your dog's bedding, ants, cockroaches, even bedbugs. It's not a tick product, it's a whole crawling pest tool. One cheap bag, no poison, for years. The same $15 handles half the bugs that'd otherwise have you calling somebody. Now, the honest part. And on this one, there are real safety points and a real limit. And I will never sell you a fairy tale. So here it is, straight. First, that food grade rule I gave you, that's the big one, so I'm saying it twice. Food grade only, never pool grade. And even with food grade, you do not want to breathe the dust while you're applying it, because any fine powder is an irritant to your lungs, and DE is a drying agent. So wear a simple dust mask when you're putting it down, apply it on a still day so it's not blowing back in your face, and keep the kids and pets inside until it's settled. Once it's down and settled in the yard, food-grade DE is about as harmless as it gets, but the cloud of dust during application is the part to respect. Second, and this matters if you care about your garden, DE does not know a tick from a honeybee. It kills any insect that crawls through it, including the good ones. So you never, ever dust it on flowers or blooming plants where bees and butterflies are working. You keep it down low, in the leaf litter and the shady tick zones, away from the blossoms. Used in the right places, it spares your pollinators. Dumped on flowers, it'll kill them, so don't. Third, the honest limit, because that title says all, and I owe you the truth. No powder clears every single tick out of an entire wooded acre. That's not how the real world works. DE is a contact killer for the zones you treat, and a genuinely powerful one. But it works because you put it where the ticks are, and you pair it with mowing and clearing and a barrier. It's a tool, an excellent one, not a magic wand you wave over the whole forest. And the most important, honest thing of all, the one I need you to actually hear? Ticks carry disease, and that means this powder is one layer of protection, never the only one. You still check yourself, your kids, and your dog for ticks every time you come in from outside. That habit saves more people from Lyme than anything else. You still use a good repellent on your skin, and, even better, treat your outdoor clothes with permethrin. You still get your dog and cat on a vet-approved tick prevention, because your pets are how most ticks get carried into the house. And if you ever get a tick bite and then come down with a fever, aches, or that telltale spreading rash, you see a doctor right away, because caught early, these diseases are very treatable, and ignored, they are not. The powder makes your yard a killing field for ticks. It does not make you bulletproof. Use it as the powerful first layer it is, and keep the other layers too. Everything I've ever put on this channel, for the house, the garden, the homestead, the pests, is gathered in one place. Every method, over at GaryStips.com. Links in the description. But stay with me, because I want to tell you about Marcy, and her story is exactly why I made this video. Marcy's got a place backing right up to the woods, 2 young kids and a big dog that lives to run those tree lines, which is paradise, except it's also a tick factory. Every summer she was pulling ticks off that dog, off the kids, off herself, and living with a low, constant dread about it. Then the dog got sick, a tick-borne illness, a scary vet bill, and a scarier few weeks, and that was it for her. She'd been paying a service to spray the yard, but with 2 kids playing in that grass barefoot, she hated laying chemicals down over and over right where they played. And honestly, she wasn't sure it was even working. So we did the real thing. We mowed it tight, cleared out the leaf litter and the brush along the tree line, laid a 3-foot band of wood chips between the lawn and the woods, and then dusted food-grade DE all along that barrier, the shady edges, the dog's runs, and where he beds down. Masks on, kids inside, the whole bit. And it worked. Not perfectly, not magically. She still does her tick checks, still keeps the dog on his prevention like I told her to. But the constant crawling tick problem dropped off a cliff. The kids can play in that yard, the dog can run his tree line, and she's not laying chemical down around her children every few weeks anymore. She's refreshing a little bag of ancient powder after the rain. She told me the thing that got her was the peace of mind, that the stuff protecting her kids was the same stuff you could practically eat, instead of something she had to warn them to stay off of. That's the knowledge the spray truck is quietly counting on you never finding. The deadliest thing in your yard for a tick isn't a poison invented in a lab. It's the ground-up skeletons of tiny sea creatures that have been dying and piling up for longer than there have been humans. A powder so old and so simple that bugs can't out-evolve it, and so cheap that nobody can build a business charging you monthly for it. There was never a secret chemical. There was just a bag of ancient dust at the farm store, and the quiet fact that $15 of it, used right, does what they'd rather sell you on a subscription. The tick can't adapt to broken glass. It never could. And you can buy that broken glass by the pound. So drop your state in the comments and tell me how bad the ticks are where you live. I think the people up north and back east are about to scare the rest of you. And tell me your worst tick story, because I know you've got one. And if your folks or your grandfolks used this powder back in the day for bugs in the garden or the chicken coop, tell me about it, because that's exactly the old knowledge this channel exists to keep alive. And when you're ready to set this up in your own yard, head over to GaryStips.com. I've got the full method, the safety steps, and everything else I've shown you all in one place, ready to go. Link right there in the description. Because next week, I'm showing you the 5-gallon bucket that catches a dozen mice in a single night. No poison and no snapping traps to reset. The one the people selling you traps by the pack really don't want you to see.